Flight boss, bitch. For sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And we're gonna finish the Saturn alignments. What makes you hard? Now I know that sound real eighth house. That sound real eighth house right there. But we talking about metaphorically, spiritually, all kind of shit. Like shit like what hardens your heart, what hardens your circumstances and situations that manifest you to experience harsh scenarios and all things of that nature. So Saturn runs deep when it comes to the teaching energy. Now, where we left off at was the conjunctions and the trines. So right now we're going to get into the squares. Now what is a square? A square is an alignment. You know what I'm saying? 90-degree angle, or however you want to break it down. Now for the most part, the square causes friction as far as alignment. When two planets are aligning each other, the light rays or the body of water or the angling of that current of influences are angling in such a way that they don't have a common flow. They don't have a common direction. They're angling in a way that they're both going their separate direction, but they're reaching the same space, the same goal. So anytime you are in a circumstance or a situation where you are squaring off with someone, keyword squaring off, both of you guys are trying to reach the same goal. You just have two different ways of going about it. So you can even take the scenario from metaphysically into the shapes and forms as the solar system and look at the natal alignments and look at the cardinal signs and the fixed signs and the mutable signs that square each other, right? They all have a common goal. They just do it in totally different ways. As far as the cardinal signs, their common goal is to initiate and create. Earth signs do it in a thinking and practical way. Air signs do it in a thinking and communicating way. The fire sign would do it. The fire sign would do it in a seeing and a feeling kind of way, and the water sign would do it in an emotional and feeling kind of way. So that's what we talk about as far as cardinal. Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, Libra. And then when we get into so on and so forth, the fixed signs and the mutable signs, they're square off. They all got a common goal. The fixed signs is to be stable, is to be consistent, but sometimes can be stubborn. So that's the common goal. But they all go about it different ways. A Taurus may go about it in a thinking and practical way. A Leo may go about it in a seeing and feeling type of way. A Scorpio may go about it in an emotional, in-depth type of way, to the point that you don't even know how they're coming across it, because they keep that behind closed doors. And Aquarius will look at it in a thinking and analytical and a communicative type way. So you always got different scenarios when they're trying to reach the same goal when we talk about the square. So that's what this is going to represent right here. So for the most part, when we get into the square, let's start off with Saturn square the sun. So if you got Saturn squaring the sun, for the most part, this makes you have to learn from your actions, how you see things, what you're consciously aware of, what other people can see from you, because that's the sun. So the sun is what we can actually see. It's your solar plexus. So when you got Saturn squaring your sun, this is something you have to learn from. And if you have the ability to learn from it, others will be able to look at you as an example of what they can learn from, on how to be more stable in their lives without being too spontaneous or being too careless with their actions and how they do things. So for the most part, when a person has Saturn square the sun, they may grow up with a harsh kind of life, but within those experiences, they're able to teach somebody else the harsh things and the harsh realities of these situations that we go through. So when a Saturn squares the sun, this makes a person has to learn the reality of their own and other people's actions and how they see things. And when you choose not to, Saturn, I was about to say Santa Claus, same thing, shit. Saturn will bring a situation in your life that's harsh. It will bring a situation in your life that show you a boundary or restriction and a limit that your action can't go through, or the way you see things can't go through. And it will force you to learn how to gain stability in your life in that uncomfortable circumstance or situation. Reason why I say uncomfortable, because Saturn is opposite to the 4th house. So it's always dealing with uncomfortability. But anytime you're going into business matters, this is anything. Anytime you do that, this is when your business flourish. When you step into unfamiliar territory, start to do new things, have new things on the menu, or new. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, this will put Saturn in a circumstance where it's uncomfortable. Now, when it's squaring your sun, it's going to force you to be uncomfortable with your own and other people's actions until you learn how to make sense out of these things. So keep that in mind. Now, if you got Saturn squaring the moon, this is going to force you to force you to learn the reality of your own and other people's emotional state. This is going to force you to learn the reality of what you're manifesting in your life. This is going to help you learn the reality of your state of being. Now, your state of being and the things that you're manifesting and what makes you feel comfortable in your life may be highly uncomfortable. See, anytime we got a Saturn with a harsh alignment with the moon, the moon is who you are in your true state of being, and that's what you manifest with. So everything that's in your life is correlated to your Merkaba, to your moon. You know what I'm saying? Because your moon was your lightest cloth, the lightest energy signature that you've seen, that was most familiar with the space that you was just in previously as a spirit. And once you expired from those shaping forms and flew as a spirit, the Merkaba represented like your Akashic records. It represents memory. It represents something that you're familiar with, so you don't be lost, truly lost. You have at least a little piece of yourself, a little sense of yourself. So this is why moon signs are important, but this is why it's important not to get lost in these also. And the sun sign is actually supposed to show you where you're actually going, so they work hand in hand. It's like a feminine, masculine, past, future type of thing. And the ascendant anchors you in the middle to the point that it's your aura, it's your awareness, it's your appearance in the time that we are in right now, in the realm of reality that you are in. That's another video though, so I'm going live tonight. See, I can't even break this down clearly without going 4th, 5th, or 6th dimensional. So when you got Saturn squaring your moon, you're going to have to learn. You got to learn from your own and other people's emotional instabilities. And if you are emotionally chaotic, Saturn will repeat and repeat and repeat situations in your life that show you that you're the one that's emotionally unstable, and you need to start making sense out of your emotional chaos and start making something out of these things as far as putting it to action and taking shape and form of it. You see what I'm saying? Instead of letting it run wild, loose, and chaotic. Now, say you got Saturn square Mercury. If you got Saturn square Mercury, now here's the thing. And I have this placement also. So if you got Saturn square Mercury, this puts you in a situation where you're going to have to learn from your own and others' communication styles, the way that they think, the way that you analyze. You got to learn from that, because you may not have a clear way of thinking. So your way of thinking may not necessarily always make sense. It may not always necessarily be practical. It may not always necessarily geared towards reality. You see what I'm saying? When you have Saturn squaring your Mercury, because Mercury is dealing with your mind, your intellect, and the way that you think. And if that is being clouded right now by the bodies of water of Saturn, which is the square alignment. So when that body of water hits your body of water, which is that Mercury chakra, it's in a friction way. So it's going to force scenarios in your life that make you learn how to think and be practical and make sense out of things. But in the meantime, you was born with this squaring your Mercury, so you're having to learn these things through these harsh situations. You don't naturally have the mentality to assess what's actually going on in your life as far as an obstacle or what should make sense or not. So Saturn brings harshness, but at the same time, it brings a scenario where you're able to learn and analyze the harshness of the circumstance and the situation that you are in. So, due to later on in life, you're able to get over things a lot faster than other people. AKA, you're able to get over harshness or trial and tribulation or setbacks. You're able to get over these things mentally a lot faster than others, because you have went through so many catastrophic moments that Saturn have brought you with this square, to the point that now you have built up a wall or built it a grounding to stand on in that trial and space. So now that trial and space doesn't seem that bad the older you get, and because it's almost like you live there to the point that you have got comfortable with that space, or you're familiar with that space. You get what I'm saying? So you're able to go through circumstances like maybe harshness, losing relatives, or bad relationships and breakups, or cheating, or bad test scores, or you know what I'm saying, not getting a position. You're able to look at these. The older you get, you're able to get over these things a lot better than other people. You see what I'm saying? So keep that in mind also. Now, if you got Saturn squaring Venus. Now, here's the thing. This is something you got to learn from. You're gonna have to learn from the people, places, and things that you love, appreciate, value, and relate to, and what you're willing to compromise with. It must have been something that your spirit was doing in a previous life that wasn't seeing things clearly. So you're here in this lifetime to actually deal with that karma and actually see that area. And it's going to come to you that much more harsher, and you're going to experience that much more experiences in that, because of the simple fact that you may have been lost in that realm of reality previously. So you added more intention, added more awareness, and then AKA added yourself more with those circumstances and situations, to the point that these are more your experiences in this time. So you're going to experience even more percentage of what you was experienced last lifetime. So with this square is here to remind you that if you're not learning this time, next time may be an opposition. Next time may be a conjunction that play out negatively. Next time, you know what I'm saying? And then you may be in a forever falling bout, wherever realm of reality that you go into. So when we talk about Saturn squaring Venus, you're going to have to learn from the people, places, and things that you love, appreciate, value, and relate to. A lot of times you manifest the wrong relationships. You appreciate the wrong things. You compromise with the wrong people. You see what I'm saying? And you end up developing bad habits when you have Saturn squaring Venus. So you're here to learn from these things. You're here to. It's almost like you're here to manifest people in your life to tell you that's a bad habit. You need to learn how to do things in moderation. It's almost like you're here to manifest bad relationships to show you that you need to love yourself a lot more. It's almost like you're here to. It's weird. So I feel sorry for everybody who got Venus, and I don't want to say feel sorry because we all can ride the wave, which that's why I'm going live tonight to show everybody how to ride the motherfucking current waves. But for the most part, Saturn squaring Venus, you have to watch out because the people, places, and things that you love, appreciate, value, and relate to is going to be your most learning. These are going to be the things you learn from the most, and it's not going to be a pretty sight. It's not going to be a harmonious type of school. It's going to be a harsh school. So you know the things that you value are always going to be taken or broken or stolen from you. The people you in a relationship is always going to not show their true colors. You know what I'm saying? Until you learn true discernment and learn how to just take what you can get, because nothing's going to be perfect. Also, it's also going to show you a lot of situations where you need to think more practical and make more sense out of the stuff that you love. And when we talk about love, that's an imagination. That is not nothing that makes sense. That is something that is in a world that we just want to live in. So you have to be careful when you have Saturn squaring Venus, because it'll play out in a way that fuck you up. Saturn square Mars. You're going to have to learn from your passions, your motivations, your desires, your anger, your aggression. You see what I'm saying? So if you're not learning from these things, it's every time you dive fully into your passions, motivations, and desires, Saturn is going to place a boundary and restriction and limit in front of you. And you probably going to be the type of person like, why does always happen to me? Why I can't never flourish? Why I can't do this? Because you're probably not passionately aware of your boundaries and restrictions and limits and what directions you need to take your Mars energy, and then so you just stay in the masculine version of Mars all day, which is anger and aggression. Now here's the thing. See, when you got Saturn square Mars, it puts you in a situation where you have to learn from that. You got to learn how to deal with your anger. Learn how to be calm, cool, and collected when all the things in the world is the reason you should be angry. And then on the flip side, learn how to dive into your passions, motivations, and desires, and your motives and your true intent. Learn how to dive into that, even if it does seem like it's taking too long, even if it does seem like things are not taking place. This is the placement of long term right here. So the things that you may creatively or passionately want to dive into with your Mars may take forever to gain traction when you have Saturn square Mars. But this is also the placement of when it actually does make traction. Nobody can never take you off your position, and that's actually the best thing, because when you're going through that whole forever waiting for your thing to take off and going through all those ups and downs, like thinking, is this gonna work? Oh, it ain't gonna work, and giving up and shit like that. And throughout that meantime, you're seeing people jump into the position that you want, and it's making you angry at things. But what you're not realizing is you're actually seeing people come and go. You're actually seeing people not being able to hold on to a position. So your spirit is actually sitting back, observing energy that you need to be analyzing as lights and currents and influences to construct to yourself, and don't be lost into your own current of the Mars as far as being angry. You know what I'm saying? And aggressive. Jump into the current of your intent and passion. Therefore, being more strategic with the feminine side of Mars, and therefore you're able to observe the mistakes and people coming and going and what they have done. Therefore, once you're in that space and you're not salty and a nasty type of individual, your mind and your heart space and your feelings and emotion will be clear enough to see what you need to see. Therefore, when it's your time, you get it by default. You put yourself in a position that no one else can fuck with. But during those experiences that it was taking forever and you was gonna give up and shit, you have to make sure that your mind and heart space was open enough to be receiving those informations. And you was watching Archangel Uriel. So you might have been lost in your own current chakra of Mars, thinking like, damn, it ain't gonna never be my time. Oh, fuck this person. Then you jumped into shit of hating, putting up videos of hating on others, and or not even whatever you do in your life. You know what I'm saying? You started participating in the masculine side of Mars without understanding that that is a precious time. That is a time that may not been for you, and that this is the time that you need to be sitting back and observing to calculate for when it is your time. And if you're not in that space, if you're blinded in some other shit, thinking being tit for tat and salty, you're not going to see those spectrums of what you need to align yourself with and see for when it is your time. So when your time do come, you might not even be ready. See, now if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. What the fuck y'all know about that? Sugar free. That's real shit though. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you got if you got Saturn square Jupiter. Now, if you got Saturn square Jupiter, check this out. It's going to make you learn from your experiences. It's going to make you learn from all the fucked up advice you took. So with Saturn square Jupiter, you might be the type of person who's unaware when they're taking fucked up advice. You might be the type of person who's unaware when you're going through experiences and not knowing how this experience got manifested in the first place by you involving yourself with people, places, and things. So Saturn, by default, forces you through a lot of harsh experiences when you got Saturn square Jupiter. So you end up later on in life developing a lot of meanings and reasonings behind these things and having a lot of wisdom and knowledge. But a lot of times you end up experiencing a lot of experiences you didn't have to experience in the first place. And that's truly what Saturn is trying to teach you when it's squaring your Jupiter. It's trying to teach you that, look, I'm going to be presenting you experiences. And all you have to do is make sense out of it. And you don't even have to go all the way till you reach a roadblock of that road or realize that road is a dead end. I'm going to show you what kind of road this is by giving a whole bunch of signs at the beginning of the road, at the beginning of the curve, before you even turn down the street. And with Saturn squaring Jupiter, it's forcing you to have that kind of mentality. Therefore, you end up having this kind of teacher-preacher-like, but in a real constructive way, in a real meaningful way, in a real influential way of doing it. If you understand this. But for the most part, if you're not into astrology or anything of that nature, this is what Saturn is going to take you through when it's squaring your Jupiter. It's going to take you through a bunch of harsh experiences and false moral systems. So it's going to be like this. You're going to be the type of person who sit back and you're going to have one moral system, or you're going to have one meaning and reasoning behind your scenario or your experiences in your life. And when you go through that experiences, you always get proved wrong. The idea that you had was always something else. The situation showed you was something else. What you actually felt about a person was always something else once you involved. The moral system that you thought was real always showed you it wasn't. All the way down to your religion system or your spirituality. You're gonna be raised up under a family or something like that make you have a certain fixed way of looking at religion or spirituality, and then you're gonna go through your whole life manifesting experiences that show you that shit was wrong. And the more you keep trying to fight it and cling on to these things, you're going to manifest more experiences of Saturn harshness, aka harsh experiences, because of the advice or wisdom or knowledge or meanings or reasonings that you have been accumulating in. So it's gonna force you to see the signs. You're supposed to be the person to be like, okay, maybe how I grew up ain't actually right. And once you start to keep that mentality when you got Saturn squaring Jupiter, it puts you in a situation where you're able to see the signs before they come. So you are a person who's analytical, a person who knows how to make sense out of spiritual things. Know what I'm saying? Now, I didn't even know this video was even going to be that long, so I'm going to go ahead and do the sextile separate and the opposition separate. So right now, this is the Saturn square alignments. Flight boss, bitch, goddamn air.